And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we gather with you each week to discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. Certainly some exciting things that took place this week in UofL athletics. Three basketball games since we last talked with you last Saturday. So we'll certainly give you a review and a kind of a synopsis on those. The Cards, of course, have 20 wins now in their bucket, and they also are only one loss in the ACC. So hanging in there against NC State. So exciting things happening for the program. But we have a foursome in here with us today as Jared, Jeff, and Daryl will join me on the broadcast. We'll just like we'd like to do at the start of the show, kind of catch up with them. Daryl is obviously at a buffet or something this morning, describing all the food and drinks she had in front of her. So I'm just kind of wondering if Daryl, maybe you could go up and get us some sausage or something. I don't know. You tell me.
You mean 3 beverages to start your day isn't normal? You gotta get the caffeine kick, the vitamin C from the orange juice, and of course water to wake you up in the morning.
That reminds me of my college days when I started in the morning with beer, bourbon, and water. You know,
Oh my
yeah,
god,
it works well.
the Polly special.
I never saw 10 a.m. from 4 years. No, I'm kidding. Uh, but there's certainly so things are going well there, Daryl. I know that we were talking just a little bit in the past, a little bit about your work schedule now, and hopefully things are going good there. And explain to me, Bally Sports. Why is this stuff on Bally Sports for women's basketball?
Because they hate us. They don't want us to watch what is good. I don't have an explanation. It is frustrating to just be able to follow on stat broadcast, but we do what we can do.
Yeah, and stat broadcast, of course, is always significantly faster
Hmm.
than the
Yeah,
actual
it's
game.
always ahead of the actual TV broadcast, so I have to put it down or minimize if I don't want a spoiler alert.
There's an aspect there where you kind of want to see, okay, we're up by 9 now. Oh, we're up by 12. Okay, now I can watch and see how we did it. Yeah,
Exactly.
but I can harken back to earlier years when we were lucky just to be on anything. So at least there is coverage out there. But we get a lot of complaints about people who don't have Valley Sports South. I think what they hit YouTube and Uverse and others and took it off there. But come on, ACC, you got one of the best teams in the conference here. Why not
Mhm.
put them on your network? Just kind of was looking ahead at I think the final 7 games. I believe we are on the ACC network once,
Wow.
and to me that's deplorable. But anyway, so much for the planning aspects there.
Right.
Jared in the house with us today. Jared has also told us that he is going to be outdoors most of the day Sunday taking photos. And so, is there a new squirrel family in the neighborhood, Jerry, or what's going on here?
No, just trying to, I guess, play catch up from rescheduled weather photography shoots that haven't been out and about. This was the first time I've been out and about in almost 48 hours when I went and got some breakfast this morning. And I'm not a cold weather person and I'm not a snow and ice person. So usually when it gets down there, I'm like, look, sorry, we're going to reschedule. Uh, so
Yeah,
at least
My
someday it'll
rule,
finally get above freezing temperatures.
my rule, Jared, is that the temperature has to be above my age.
Well, wait until I get about 60 years old, and then I'll go with that rule.
I'm already there. Plus, and let me tell you, anything below my age is going to make me put on some kind of overgarment. Yeah, I can't be running around in 25-degree weather like Jeff in shorts. Okay, I just can't do it.
Did you all see the guy on the opening ceremony for the Olympics last night in Beijing that didn't have a shirt on?
I did not. I have not really bought into these Olympics yet. I mean, it's at Beijing again. Who cares? They're not letting anybody in except privileged people and stuff like that. The luster of the Olympics this year for me is kind of not what it used to be anymore. These winter games, but I don't know if you're watching it. More power to the USA squads, and let's hope they all do well. I think we were playing women's, what was it, women's ice hockey today?
Hockey? Yep, I was watching that this morning.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully we're doing well. Heard they had a big injury though, so that's unfortunate for the USA team. But Jeff is in here. Jeff, of course, a man in the controls today, and has us up successfully running. And 5 minutes into the show, that's quite the accomplishment, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, I am wearing shorts and, some freezing temperatures. But, I went out to get my coffee this morning, and it was, it's cold, but there's not a lot of wind out. So it's not too bad. I'm also getting into my car that's already warm when I get to it. So that's fine too.
Oh, Jeff, you're one of those people I was talking about yesterday.
Yeah? Wearing
Some of us
shorts or
have
what?
to, pry the door open still to even get the car
Yeah.
started.
I will, yes, I will acknowledge that I have a very nice car, and it is wonderful for this because I can turn the heat on well ahead of time, and it'll be plenty warmed up. In fact, the other day when we actually had the precipitation the next morning, I actually didn't end up going out, but I did turn the heat on in the car before I got in the shower. So,
Wow.
yeah,
And
Isn't
then
that
there's
nice?
people like me out there with both hands on the
yeah,
handle, a leg up there, trying to get this thing open.
yeah.
Right there with you, Daryl, too. And that's after spending 10 minutes clearing all the crap off of it and then
Yeah.
unlocking the car and then figuring, oh, the door isn't opening. Well, that's good. Gee, I wonder if I can get in the trunk and get my crowbar out and see if I can pry this. No, anyway, that's.
Yeah. And as for Winter Olympics, I don't find the Winter Olympics generally as riveting as the summer ones. I do have my YouTube TV set to record curling and speed skating, both long track and short track, particularly short track. I think it's a lot of fun because it's chaos.
And I was kind of upset too, Jeff, that the Cardinal couple bobsled team did not get an invite for any of the tryouts for this either.
I'm sorry, Paul. I blew it. I blew it for all of us.
I thought we had a good finish. I was going to steer the bobsled again this year. Jeff was going to be behind me making snarky comments and giving me directions. Turn left. No, don't go that way. What are you doing up there? Let me drive.
We got beat out by the Jamaican team again.
Mm-hmm.
I missed
Cool
the
Runnings
mark.
Part 2.
Feel the rhythm.
Of course, I don't know how we would have done in Beijing. I don't know what kind of coffee they've got over there. That is a prerequisite for me going anywhere anymore.
Well, they've got your freedom of speech limited over there right now is what the big
That's for sure.
news has been for the Olympian athletes.
I can't speak any Chinese anyway, so it'd be like, how do you say coffee in Chinese? That would be my main concern, and also alcohol. And for me, just another busy week. Just trying to keep the kittens in the box here, so to speak, and running around trying to do stuff. And certainly did not like Friday morning one bit, sir. No, that was just too brutal, and was one of the idiots that was out there like 7 o'clock in the morning driving. And at least it was nice because there was no traffic anywhere. Of course, when you're going 15 miles an hour, that's probably a good thing. So anyway.
Yeah.
Time of the show there where we usually catch you up on scheduling and Twitter information. Since Case isn't here, Daryl's still at the buffet line. We're going to let Jared do it this week. So, Jared, put down your damn camera and give us some scheduling and Twitter information.
Yeah, I think we were done by 11:07 last week, and I don't even get to start until 11:09 this week.
Pressure's
So
on.
we're gonna put that one on Polly. So we'll start with it's a decent schedule now that we're starting to pick up some spring sports. The track invitational, track and field out at the Mayo Invitational in South Bend will wrap up today. It probably already began, depending on how the weather is, or if they're competing indoors. You don't have to worry.
Should be indoor. I think this is indoor season.
I am fine with indoor season. And then men's basketball hits Syracuse at 2 p.m. up there up north. Women's basketball stays on the road this Sunday. They've got a noon tip-off also at Syracuse, so it's a busy Beat Syracuse weekend. Looks like women's tennis will actually get to play. They've had a couple cancellations and postponements due to weather already, but they're going to be down in Nashville against Vanderbilt at 1 p.m. tomorrow. We get Monday and Tuesday off, nothing happening. Men's basketball stays on the road. They hit Notre Dame on Wednesday night. Moving ahead to Thursday, Louisville Swim and Dive is back in town. They're going to be hosting the Louisville Invitational, so it's not really a meet per se as much as this is more for qualifying purposes. If people need to reach a certain time or mark to make the NCAAs or ACCs, this will be what those are. You'll see that start Thursday, time to be announced later on. Softball starts their season. We won't see softball for quite some time. They like to head down southwards for them to start up the season. They will go down to the Florida Atlantic FAU First Pitch Classic in Boca Raton, Florida. And it looks like they're playing Florida Atlantic for their first one, 4 p.m. And it looks like they played Florida Atlantic back-to-back also, so 6 p.m. So a quick doubleheader for them. While that second game is going on down there in Florida, women's basketball will be tipping off against Virginia here at home at the KFCM Center. That is 7 p.m. Eastern Time. This one's going to be on ACC Network Extra, so make sure you get your computers or phone app ready to tune in, catch that one. Moving ahead to Friday, Swim and Dive continues the Louisville Invitational. That'll probably start, if I had to guess, around lunchtime that day. Track and Field will stay on the road. They're up in Seattle, Washington, so all the way across the country there for the Husky Classic. That's going to be an all-day event. But they've also got track and field listed as the Tiger Paw Invitational same day in Clemson, South Carolina. So interesting to see how that's going to get split up and if that's going to be men one location, women the other, if they do track one location, field the other. So we'll do a little more digging and research on that to get you updated before Friday rolls around. Softball starts day 2 of their season. They'll play Bethune-Cookman, 2 p.m. down in Boca Raton. As soon as they finish that one, they're going to face Indiana, also down there in Florida. So it's another doubleheader. 4 games in 2 days already. It's going to be a busy weekend for them. Women's tennis does get to come home. Presumably, they're going to be indoors against Ball State, 4 p.m. Bass Red Tennis Center. Free admission if you want to head on out there. If they play outdoors, it's no mask. If they play indoors, you will be required to wear a mask. Just a heads up. Next Friday, lacrosse will also open up their season. They're going to be out in Boulder, Colorado. They've actually got a couple matches out there in Colorado, the state of Colorado, to open the season, but this one will be against Colorado itself, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, so that's going to be here back at Louisville time for those keeping track. No TV or online listed for that yet, so we'll keep an eye on as that gets closer. And then moving ahead to next Friday, before we even hop on air, there's more stuff going on. Track and field will be splitting in with the Tiger Paw Invitational in Clemson, South Carolina, as well as the Husky Classic in Seattle, Washington. Softball will play their 5th game in less than 48 hours against Ohio State down in Boca Raton, Florida at 9 a.m. That sounds quite miserable, 9 o'clock start time. And then everything else later that afternoon will be after we've done radio, so we will leave that for next week to hit. So already, as you can see with the rollover between winter sports and spring sports, it's starting to pick up, which is exciting for us. Gives us more games and events to cover. And quickly moving over to Twitter real quick, Case, who is absent again this week, tweets out his best case scenario. BST, no E in the word best. Daryl, who is back again with us, which we're happy to have her back, tweets out as Daryl Fast 4. I'm sure she's snacking on her breakfast at the moment. Jeff, who's running all of our technology equipment right now, has 2 Twitter accounts. His personal is at Jeff McAdams, and then his UofL Women's Sports Twitter account is at Card Couple Radio. Paulie tweets out as Cardinal Couple. You'll see a lot of women's basketball tweets coming from him, especially for home games, so keep an eye on this Thursday. And then myself, I tweet out as Mr. Anderson Jared. 11:14, I'd say that's pretty good, being able to get through scheduling and Twitter. Back to you, Paul.
Yeah, knocked it down in a 5-minute session there. Very good, sir. And a lot of stuff to cover as well. But my question for you is twofold, Jared. First of all, what is the FAU nickname? Who are they?
Oh, goodness. I haven't done my summertime research yet. I want to say it's some type of bird, but I don't know if that's right or not.
You're on the right track.
Is it a Hawkeye?
Nope.
Because it's not a Seahawk.
FAU
Nope.
Blazers?
Atlantic.
Nope.
No, I don't know.
The Owls. The Owls.
Huh.
The wise old FAU Owls.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see that now.
So I guess softball's going to be having a hoot down there this weekend.
Oh,
It'll be a hoot, that's for sure. And then, what former U of L athletic great coach was at FAU?
Ooh. Do we get the sport?
Sport and coach, if you can do it. I can hint you the sport.
It wasn't football with Howard, is it?
He nails it right off the bat. That's
I was
right.
like, I knew he was down in Miami, but I knew he traveled around Florida for a little bit there.
Very
Howard was
nice. Very nice.
actually the head football coach and athletic director at one time down there.
Wow.
Did
Did
not
he
know
get
that part.
salaries?
The FAU, yeah, getting 2 salaries, and of course had Bev on the sidelines walking around making appearances. A true story. I was actually down in Boca Raton a few years ago when Howard was down there visiting Sony's brother, and just that spur of the moment, slow afternoon, I said, "Hey, I want to drive over to campus and see if I can find Howard," which ensued in a 2-hour futile chase that brought me no Howard, but got me an FAU T-shirt that I found in a locker room. Yes, it left with me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, quote unquote, found.
Yes,
Was it the right size?
no, it was dreadfully small. Not even Sonya could wear it, so I ended up giving it to someone else. But the FAU Owls, yes, Florida Atlantic University, who actually, has got a pretty stable and good program down there. Howard, of course, long since gone from there, but interesting stuff. But hey, let's not delve back into old Cardinal history. Let's get in with what's going on, and that is basketball right now for sure. Taking you all the way back to Sunday when the Cards were in the KFC Yum Center, bringing in Duke and playing them in front of a great crowd of like about 9,000 at the KFC Yum Center. Jared and I were both there. Haley Van Lith, big game, guys, with 17 points in that one, getting Louisville to, at that time, their 18th win of the season, and also got the really good bench performance out of Peyton Verholst came in, I think, and had like 13 points. A nice effort from her. And Olivia Cochran off to a big start too, but then got into foul trouble. And Liz Dixon came in and did a fine job. Jared, you were at with this one for me. Van Lith with 3 threes in the first quarter. Certainly, maybe a sneak peek on what she was going to do later in the week, but Haley was on early.
Yeah, it's one of those things, shoot or shoot. And Haley's finally found her rhythm. There was a little bit of concern early on in the season when she started, like 2 for 40 from 3-point range or something ridiculous. But people hit slumps, and it was early season. Nothing to worry about, as you can see these last few weeks, especially against Duke. She's right there on point. I love watching Olivia play down low. I think she's going to be a huge threat as well as possibly an ACC Player of the Year here in her later years in her career at UofL. So that'll be fun to keep an eye on. I like seeing Peyton get out there, get a lot of minutes, build her confidence up, shot really well. And you almost want to say maybe the coaching staff's grooming her for the tournament in case we need somebody to come in off the bench to provide an offensive spark. And I think she could be one of those players to do it.
She certainly can. As the Cards actually led by 20 in the first half in this one. A Verholst 3 with about 40 seconds to go in the half. Pushed that edge to 45-25. Louisville was comfortably in the lead, and certainly having a lot of success with the 3 ball. And that's something that I don't know if Jeff Walls necessarily stresses, Daryl, but certainly we've got ample shooters who can drill it from outside the arc.
Definitely. And it looks like the team's starting to come together. I mean, I feel like all the way up until this point, we've been witnessing a team that's kind of off the mark on a few of the stat categories, but especially Haley Van Lith feeling a lot more confident. Imagine if every single one of the players on this team finally came together. I really would be afraid for the opponent because I think they'd score 150.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, gosh, you would think that, and I thought the other night we were going to get triple digits against Clemson, but certainly when the offense is on, there's you don't know who to stop because anybody is capable of putting up 20 on you. Like I think Haley Van Lith mentioned after her interview on Bailey Sports after our win the other night. But This was a game where I expected a Cardinal blowout against Duke in the second half, but Jeff, give Duke credit, they kind of regrouped and made a game of it here, actually cutting our lead down to 9 in the third quarter, and uh, Duke was showing some fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked earlier in previous weeks about some questions about how good of a coach Carol Lawson was going to be. Of course, she wasn't there. She wasn't actually in attendance, but obviously she has a big hand in what this team looks like and how they play. We know she's a great basketball player. She was an amazing basketball player at multiple levels. She's a good basketball, color analyst too. We've seen that, but that doesn't always translate to coaching.
Mhm.
This team was put together. They played well. Maybe not the most talented team in the conference, but they played well. They looked good. They didn't give up. They played with heart, and I got to give them credit for that.
It was, of course, the return of Elizabeth Balagoon
Mm-hmm.
to the KFCM Center, former Cardinal star. I won't necessarily call her a Cardinal great, although she did do some significant things while she was here, but decided to try her luck with Kara and the Dukies, so she was back in the arena. Nia Green, who was also a Cardinal at one time, is also on that roster, but was currently suspended because of a violation of team's procedures and policies. So read what you will into that. She wasn't there though, and Duke, to give them credit, Jared, they got us a little bit nervous there in the fourth quarter, cutting this lead to 5, going on a 10-2 run in the first 2.5 minutes of that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was just getting maybe a little too comfortable with the lead, or also just Walls kind of switching some stuff around and throwing some other players in there to see what he could get. A lot of Alana Smith there late in the game, kind of switching out Liz Dixon, Mikasa Robinson were in there late in the game. Marissa Russell came in for a final few minutes. So you didn't really have your A team out there going up against Duke. And I think that was just more. I think the Walls was happy with the lead and felt like that we could hold the lead. And if something did come up, which when we cut it a little bit short, he was ready to put in a few of the starters back in there as well to clean stuff up. And that's just one of those. You got to get some of your reserves playing time and have them ready to go when tournament time rolls around and you're playing a lot of games back to back to back, especially CC tournament. You got to have those fresh legs and people with experience out there. So I wasn't overly concerned with it.
I got a little nervous at 62-57, but one of the things that we were also treated to, if you can call it that, was the return of Eric Bruton and his crew to the floor. They certainly seemed to get the best of the Cardinals crowd as far as disappointment over calls made. And there was certainly a situation with that concerning in that game, Daryl, is for some reason, Eric Bruton just doesn't seem to like Louisville. And if he's going to call something, more than likely he's going to call it on the cards for stuff that's fictitious.
Listen, join the club. It's like playing at the KFCM Center is a home court disadvantage for any Louisville squad. I don't know what it is. I don't know if refs thinks they are making it more exciting. I don't know if they're on a graduate of the other team. I don't know what the requirements for these people are, but I mean, I still want to see the way that this team responds to that sort of adversary because I mean, I just feel like, and I was going to piggyback off of Jared's point, it seems like there's a pattern with this squad in the third and fourth quarter. The second half of these games, they're letting teams come back in, and it's kind of scary. I mean, Duke was beat the Cards in the second half of that game. Does anyone else feel that sort of concern that it might catch up with them eventually?
Yeah, we just got to quit hitting cruise control.
Is that what it is?
I think part of it's our fourth quarter meltdown, too.
For against NC State, the meltdown, or just generally?
You take a look at the last several games, though, and
Mhm.
and we haven't had great fourth quarters except, maybe at Miami it was. The fourth quarters to me just haven't been where we've got that killer instinct and are actually putting teams away.
Now, I know we've talked about it before, just how comfortable Coach Walls is going to the bench earlier in the game. I'm just wondering if it's a little too soon for this starting squad, because they come out of the half and it's kind of like you said, they get on cruise control, or maybe they're just not as warmed up as we hope they would be, and they just let it slip from them. I don't know what it is, but the third and fourth quarters are starting to be a little concerning for me.
Yeah, I think, and you and many Cardinal fans share that same viewpoint, and then I do a little bit too. I want to see that old killer instinct, where we take a 20-point lead and build it up to 35, and then we're playing everybody but the janitors, for the final 4 minutes of the game.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'd like to see those days come back, but once again, against the Blue Devils, the Cards, got 9 attempts from the free throw line for the entire game. Jeff, they made 8 of those, but Duke, 21 attempts, made 15. I mean, Duke getting over 2 times the amount of chances from the free throw line against Louisville.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say that women's basketball officiating is biased, as a lot of people sometimes do, but it is unquestionably bad, right? I mean, it's just bad. And there needs
Coach Walls
to be.
agrees.
What's that?
Coach Walls agrees with you.
Yeah. Well, he says it's the way the rules are written, and fair enough. He has to say that because he gets fined if he doesn't. But we are under no such restrictions. There needs to be a long needed reckoning on this, that need to look at why these. I don't know why this is not something that's capable to fix. I've said for a long time that they should unify the rule sets between the men's and women's game and make it a common pool of referees.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we had a case where the refereeing was particularly bad on the men's side of things this week as well, and you saw how much outrage that caused. It doesn't cause that on the women's side because it just doesn't get the respect and doesn't get the attention. That's what needs to change, I think.
Is that a real thing, Jeff? Like, if you officiate in the women's game, you're pretty much in a different pool than the men's?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
I don't see why. I mean, it's a universal game in a sense, and I think Coach Walls touched on it.
That's the problem. Is it's not completely. There are slight variations in the rule set, so that's why I said we need to.
Coach Walls is like hinting at that the certain rule differences are holding the women back, holding the women's game back.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I have no problem with that statement at all either. But the nature of the game is obviously a little bit different in the fact that the men's ball is bigger than the women's basketball. The men play halves instead of quarters. The timeout rules are a little bit different and such. And of course, the obvious one is we have very few women who are dunking in games, and that seems to be the only thing going on in men's games anymore, is trying to set up somebody for a dunk. But
not if it's UofL. They don't dunk at all.
Yeah, UofL. It's a clang off the back rim, and the ball flies out to half court.
Yeah, we don't even make bunnies.
Yeah, it just we could probably spend a whole show on men's basketball. But anyway, no, I'm not going to.
Everyone else does that.
Yeah, and we are not everybody else for sure. But so the Cards getting that successful win on Sunday went down to sunny Miami for a game against the Hurricanes. Sebastian, the Ibis, and crew down there on Tuesday. This was a game that, once again, I was a little bit nervous in the fourth quarter, Jared. The Cards were trailing Miami 59-50, just a little over 6 minutes to play in the game. And I was being gloom and doom here in my easy, comfy, lazy boy chair, yelling at the television and thinking to myself, oh my God, Miami, we got outcoached by Katie Biter. This is ridiculous. Katie Biter's got Walls' goat again. But it didn't happen.
Yeah, this one actually did make me nervous because we're down by double digits pretty late in the fourth quarter there. And it was just odd. We didn't look like ourselves, and one of that was part of our defense was playing a little off, and then offensively we were just missing a lot of open looks that we typically make. And it wasn't the best shooting night for several of our players. And unfortunately, Emily had an off night shooting. And other than the 3-point line, I thought Kiana kind of struggled a little bit with her closer shots. We're still having a really bad time missing our layups and our point blank range shots in general. I don't understand why that's becoming such a big issue, because that's something you feel like you would practice and have a little bit better just awareness of where the basket is around you, so you know what to do when you are in the paint. But thankfully, we were able to go on that nice run. I think it was a 19-7 run to close out the game and hold off Miami by just a hair.
And Jeff, let's give the Cards credit where credit is due here. They were down 59-50. They actually came back and took a 65-62 lead over the Canes, putting together a very nice, just doing the quick math on it here, I think they outscored them 15-3 in that stretch. Chelsea Hall with a big three-pointer, and Olivia Cochran a nice basket inside. The Cards showed that they weren't scared, and they came back and really put a nice little hurt on Miami at the end of this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the things that I've liked about this team all year long, is that there is, they don't get afraid. They don't get scared of, wait, we're not performing well. They're capable of just sitting down and saying, okay, here's what happened. Now it's time to get in gear and play the game that we know how to play, and come back and win a game. I appreciate the character that shows for these players. Of course, there's a lot of coaching that goes into that as well, but it's not just coaching. There has to be something that is desired by the players deep down.
As it is in most Louisville games, there was referee intrigue and mystery in this one as well. I'll take you to near the end of the first half when Miami was in the midst of a 5-0 run, and then all of a sudden, they get a three to tie it up at 35-35, and then the official said, wait a second, how much time is left? What? The scorekeeper doesn't know. The timekeeper doesn't know. Gee, what do we got here? 3 seconds, 2.5 seconds, 1.9 seconds. So they huddled. They looked at each other. They stared blankly into the audience looking for an answer.
And just walked off the court. I don't get it.
Hey, the half's over. You go to your locker rooms. We're done with the first half.
Clearly time on the clock. No matter what you looked at, there was time on the clock. And they just walked off the court. I totally don't get it.
Who's in charge here?
I think the guys got their Jimmy John delivery for their halftime meal and just decided, okay,
Yeah,
to the locker room.
Delivery ever.
What an embarrassing thing for the officiating. I mean, it's goodness.
And not to say that the announcers were great shakes on the broadcast on this one, but they were baffled as well.
Right.
They were sitting there in this great discussion, but I think it's 2.5, but wait a second, the teams are going to the locker room.
Yeah, it was. So
I have
no idea what happened there.
A 35-35 tied halftime, and I just gotta wonder what the referees talked about when they went back to the locker room.
They said, this sandwich is good.
Boy, can I have half that pastrami? I'll trade you my turkey club here. Yeah. Who's not eating their pickle? Who needs a pickle? So, but anyway, the Cards came out slowly to start the second half in this one. Miami actually jumping out to a 39-35 lead in the first 90 seconds of this one. And I was a little bit nervous even at this point of the game. Mm-hmm. We just couldn't get a whole lot going on here. And the Canes led this thing 49-46 at the end of three quarters. Let's just kind of take that around the table. What were we waiting for? What was going on here? Why was Miami having such success against us in that third quarter?
I'll go start first. I think part of it was just Miami's a fairly tall team just in general, so they've got an advantage over a lot of the smaller, undersized teams. And you have to look. We do have some shorter players out there. Chelsea Hall can be a little bit on the shorter side. Haley Van Lith, Mikasa Robinson, Alana Smith. They're all, for guards, they're decent height, but they're still relatively small when you go up against other players. And I mean, I think Olivia Cochran's only what about 6'2", 6'3" officially as a forward, so that's on the smaller side. And I mean, other than Liz Dixon, we don't have a true tall player out there, and I think that's where maybe Miami was able to get a little bit of an advantage at times, and just the long arms that go with that, where they were able to disrupt some of the passing lanes, and then just be able to get a little bit more in our face when we're shooting, and cause some poor or forced shots that we typically don't take.
And Jeff, one of the things I noticed here is that when I think of this Miami squad, the first player that comes to mind is Kelsey Marshall. She's certainly one of the better players in the league. We held her to an 11 points. We did a good job on her defensively.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did fairly well defensively in general, but it's you gotta a lot of these teams you shut down one and they can move in with somebody else. Of course, we're the quintessential version of that maybe in the ACC is that we've got so many weapons, but it was a solid effort. Give credit to Miami for that, but yeah.
I think our effort and execution was pretty good in this one because let's take a look at this. We made 28 baskets. We had 23 assists on those 28 baskets, Daryl. That's a really great stat. And we were 8 for 20 from 3-point range, which is not bad. At the end, we were hitting them, but once again, just a team effort.
I wanted to point out like where we are as a program. We're sitting here talking about how Miami gave us a run for our money, but it just goes to show how far Louisville as a program has come, and we are the top dog to take down, and we're going to get everyone's best effort. If you read Miami's preview of this game, there was a lot of quotes and facts from previous matchups between the two squads, and it's like now Miami has players that remember when they beat Louisville because it doesn't happen often. They have players on staff who are trying to get or they have coaches now on staff that are trying to get current players to buy into it, to take down Goliath, which is UofL. So it's just we're going to get the best effort out of every squad we play, and Miami just seems to be one of those that just really takes it down to that final shot, and we got a good game. And this week, I mean, we've got so many games to talk about: Duke, Miami, Clemson, and we're about to play Syracuse. It's for 4 games in 8 days. This has been a really good test for this squad. I think looking ahead to the postseason, and like you all have already said, that this team isn't scared. It's like when they get down by 9, there's some switch that flips in each one of their minds that they're not worried about it. They go get another stop. They get the ball back. They put the ball in the hoop for 3, and then they just claw their way back in for a 3-point victory and just moving on to the next game. You don't have to win by 20 points every time, but these games like this are going to be huge in the postseason. And I think this many games this week has really put another notch in this team's belt to make it further this year.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off of what Daryl said there just for a moment. And a lot of that comes due to a fairly veteran squad that's got a lot of experience. You've got 6 players on the roster that see a healthy amount of playing time that are either seniors or graduate students that are playing. So they've been in situations like this plenty of times throughout their career, and they understand what has to be done. They're very mature, and you've even got a strong, mature, younger classman crew as well. When you look at like Haley Van Lith and Olivia Cochran and just what they're able to understand and learn so quick from, that it helps in these close games, like Daryl said, and not panicking when you're down multiple possessions there in the fourth quarter, and just knowing you've been there before and that you can do it again, come back and win. So having that veteran experience helps a lot.
And Olivia and Haley have this nonverbal communication that is scary for other teams. I really do think it's scary. We're only in the second season of those two together. Imagine 4 years down the road in their careers together.
Yeah, certainly something to really look forward to for the rest of their careers. And I'll say this, that Katie Meyer has been at Miami for quite a while.
Yeah.
And there are very few coaches in women's college basketball that can prepare a team and get a team as ready as well as Katie does. Okay. If you take a look back in our series against Miami over the years, Katie's always got them ready to roll down there.
Yep.
And they've always played us fairly close. And well, I tell you, for some reason, Jeff Wall was like one Publishers Clearinghouse or something like that, and decided to retire from basketball. Uh, Whoever our AD is needs to talk to our board of trustees and athletic board and say, let's get that gal from Miami up here. I think she'd be a fine coach for this program. And knowing Katie, she would probably jump at the chance. So enough said on that. The Cards are 2/3 of the way through that road trip, and they were headed to Clemson next. Coming up to the state that is known for boiled peanuts and palmettos. That's right, going to the Clemson campus to play in the Little John Arena. It's a shame they didn't give Big John an arena down there, but Little John does have his own arena, and decided to invite the Cardinals in to play in front of, I think they may hit 1,000 for attendance, maybe.
Yeah.
I know our friend Arthur, who comments quite a bit on the website, was there for it. And he said people were looking at me like I was strange because I was cheering for both teams.
Aw, that
we
takes a big guy.
We would make a big play, and I would stand up and start fist pumping and yelling, "That's a way to go with that ball in there, Haley!" Then we would turn around, and Amari Robinson would do something. I'd be going like, "Take that, Cardinals!" he was a man with a split personality, perhaps. I don't know.
I was going to say, imagine getting in an argument with that guy.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm going to have to take notes.
I'm sure he could carry on a great argument with himself, too. Okay. What's going on, Amanda? Amanda's doing a great job. Shut up, Arthur. You know she isn't. Look at that.
Don't tell me to shut up.
Don't tell me to shut up. I've got good seats. Where are you? I'm with you. Oh, okay.
Doesn't take much.
The Cards got down there. Fortunately, they were not a part of the horrible weather that was coming in Thursday night and Friday across much of the nation. And Clemson, I think they were in the mid-50s. Certainly a good atmosphere to come into. The Cards walked in to play the lowly Clemson Tigers, and admittedly, they've got a couple great players on this team, Jared. If you take a look at some of the things that Delisha Washington's done for them, obviously, Amari Robinson, those are two players that probably make the ACC all-tournament or all-conference team at the end of the year, I would think.
Yeah, Clemson's got a really talented squad, and watching Delisha Washington play and just even doing the preview of this game, she's a heck of a ball player, even though she's not known for shooting the three, and she decided she wanted to be known for shooting the three against us. She's just a great all-around player, and she scores and finds ways to score pretty much every possession, and she's got to be an all ACC recognition player here at the end of the season, even despite Clemson's not so hot record. And watching what Amari Robinson did against us, I knew she was able to score, but she really kind of cranked on the wheels there too for them in a while. And it was Washington and Robinson that really made this such a close game and tied it up there early in the third quarter and kept Clemson alive for so long.
And how confusing was it to have two players on there named Robinson?
Yeah, ours and theirs, right?
It drove me nuts.
Yeah, I had turned over and listened to Nick Curran call a little bit of the game, and of course he just went first names. He just eliminated any problem with that. He goes,
yeah, it was more when I went back and watched the replay because I don't have Bally Sports, so I went back and watched the replay, and so it was the Bally Sports folks who were just talking about Robinson
with great defense.
Robinson, such a great shooter. Like what?
Which team? Which team? Yeah, just like
can't be ours.
Yeah.
I will say though, I did tune into Nick Curran a couple times this week, and Nick, and if I can give some healthy criticism, he gets too excited when the other team scores. I was getting confused.
Nick loves basketball. Though.
He loves it, and he's so good at it. He will paint a picture like it's the most detailed thing you've ever thought.
And he really is. We have had been blessed with some very good play-by-play announcers in women's basketball over the years, going back to Jim Kelch, who was a fantastic play-by-play caller, and then Matt Andrews, who did a great job before he left us to become a Buckeye. But enough said on that. But in the event, Nick Curran stepped right in, and to listen to Nick call a game, it actually gives you the feel that you are in the arena watching it.
It
The way
does.
he describes the action.
You can
And
just lay there and close your eyes like the olden days.
yeah, and just in case you missed something that Nick didn't cover, AJ's right on it too. AJ's quick with that, uh, tending, of course, sometimes to point out both the good and bad in the Cardinals, and AJ can just get on it. Well, I just don't know what's going on out there right now with
Exactly. It's
and
funny.
yes,
She points out things I'd never really think of.
yeah, and she goes, and Emily just doesn't need to stand there. She can move her feet. It's okay to move your feet, Emily.
You know that she's with Coach Walls after the game, giving her point of view.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that those plane rides back to Louisville are a font of knowledge for Jeff Walls.
She's invoicing the program like, where's my coaching salary?
But yeah, just love her to death. She's so great to the broadcast. So if you tend to listen to games on the radio, which I like to do from time to time, you're a very blessed Card Nation to have such two very good announcers. But so what was up with this Clemson team here? You know, they didn't start out too great against us here, but you know, they were able to come back in here and do some things against us. Jeff, first of all, let's call it what it is. It was the Haley Van List show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, she drops 34 in the game. It's that we've talked about. I talked about. She mentioned in the offseason that she was trying to speed up her release to make her a bigger threat. And she did that. And I think early in the season, we saw some of the frustrations of trying to get that new shooting form and speed and pattern into shape and get that shooting percentage back. And, you know, that's what we saw. Somebody earlier said, 2 for 40 over the course of a few games early in the season. That's, you know, certainly frustrating. Yeah, I think she's got it put back together at this point. She was hitting everything that she threw up. I mean, literally, she was 6 for 6 in the third quarter, something like that. In that ballpark, anyway. She's a phenomenally good shooter. She moves well. She moves her feet well. It's an impressive. She's putting up impressive performances now. She's going to be the face of this team, I think, going forward.
I don't see much argument in that, sir. As Louisville jumped out to a 25-16 first quarter lead, the Cards shot an incredible 73.5% from the floor, 11 for 15. They were certainly on. Clemson, though, was not dismayed. They did not throw in the tent. They came back and won the second quarter against Louisville, 23-19, and certainly one of those things where Robinson and Washington, their Washington, and their Robinson, although we don't have a Washington.
We don't have a Washington, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, those two combined for 17 points in the second quarter. Clemson was red hot from three-point range. Emily on the bench with foul trouble. Kiana Smith disappeared in the second quarter to a shooting slump, and Clemson had actually gotten back into this game. So I'm thinking to myself at halftime of this one, okay, is this going to be another one of these games where we just kind of dilly-dally in the second half and let Clemson all the way back into this thing? But it did not happen, Daryl. The Cards won the final two quarters and won this game.
You know, Clemson's one of those programs a couple of years ago. I thought that they were going to start being a serious contender, but this year definitely not. But they definitely put the best show they could for the Cards while they were in town. Like you said, Washington and Robinson putting on a show. Washington probably would have won some conference accolades this week had it not been for Haley Van Lith putting on a show of her own.
And the announcing crew was good because it was all about Washington and Robinson.
And it should be. I mean, she was going off. We were letting her do whatever she wanted. She was the reason Clemson was in it for a long period of time. And but Haley Van Lith finally coming together. I'm just so happy for her to finally put a stat sheet like that for her, because you can imagine how much it helps her confidence. And then you mentioned the other consistent players we have. Liz Dixon is just a huge piece to this puzzle. She gives Emily Angsler a break, and Emily's been struggling this week offensively, and I think she gets in her head sometimes, and sometimes she plays games and I think that she's gonna not take a shot at all, but then she gets open and she kind of has to take a shot. But that bad game she had against Miami this week, I think, knocked her down a little bit. But she'll be all right. Like I said, once this team comes together, it'll be scary for whoever we're playing that day.
And one of the keys is an opponent never knows who's going to go off on them either.
Right.
It could be any of our first 7 or 8 in the game,
And it'll definitely be the first off the bench.
Yeah.
Whoever that be, it may be.
But
Casa
usually our first off the bench is Casa. She's not going to be a big scoring threat, but yeah.
But
she'll take the ball away from you.
Once they put her on Washington,
that is for sure. Yeah.
Washington only had 10 second half points.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cute.
She will have an absolutely huge impact on the game. That's what she does. But yeah, she's not necessarily going to be scoring a lot. Although she's been doing better. But
yeah, she has. She has been finding that mid-range jumper.
And so you might ask yourself, how were the referees in this game, Paulie? How did they do? Well, guess what? We got 10 free throw attempts. Clemson got 24. What's that tell you right there?
Despite that, they were surprisingly competent, I think, in this one. And when you have to use the phrase surprisingly competent, there's a problem.
Emily Angsler needs to land at least half of hers, that's for sure.
Yeah, surprisingly being the key word there. It's just, we could go on and on about the refs. One of the things about this game that really impressed me a lot, though, is that, in the second half, and Arthur even backed this up a little bit, he said, I would look over at that Louisville bench, and everybody was over there employing the rest of the team to get the ball to Haley. And I thought that Sam Purcell was going to go hoarse, screaming at working around to Haley, around to Haley.
You feed the hot hand. I mean, of course.
That's what you do. Exactly. That's what you do. And to give our girls a lot of credit, they did recognize who that hot hand was and made sure that Haley had her plate full and plenty to eat, and she certainly cleaned the plate doing that as well. Fantastic for her. I think she fully deserves Player of the Week honors, but then again, you never know. Somebody may step up tomorrow and score 55 points for somebody and knock her out of it. But Haley certainly.
That's a long shot, but it is possible.
Yeah, indeed, a long shot. But if anybody deserves it right now, not looking into Sunday's action, of course, yet, but Haley certainly deserves that, and I hope that she does get it. So, with the win, the Cards go to 20-2 on the year. Also 10-1 in the ACC. Of course, the big thing right now here is, can we get somebody else besides Notre Dame to beat NC State? Has anybody else got a prayer knocking off Notre Dame and giving them or NC State and giving them a second conference loss? I've just got to wonder. I'm trying to find somebody that can do it. And not looking ahead at NC State's schedule, I'm not sure.
Well, Georgia Tech's still on the schedule, and Duke's still on the schedule.
Georgia Tech's a possibility.
Georgia Tech has a shot at it, absolutely.
They got them on Monday.
Yeah, very, very strong team down there going on right now for Nell Fortner and some of the things they do. You got to hope that maybe they can do that as well. But
we owe them one too, Paul.
Elaborate.
Well, I'm imagine we would do it in the postseason, but we owe NC State a loss.
Oh, we definitely do. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I don't think that Wes Moore and Jeff Walls are going to get together and pound down beers at a local Greensboro tavern down there in the ACC tournament either, because
they're not going to sit down and discuss Yellowstone like buddies.
Yeah, I'm sure that Wes would probably try to drink Jeff under the table, but
competition.
One of the beauties is the more Jeff drinks, the less he stutters. No, I'm not kidding. Uh,
We love you, Jeff.
yeah, we love you, Jeff, but certainly it's kind of an unspoken rivalry, and certainly not the kind of rivalry that Jeff has had against some other ex-coaches in the league. Muffet McGraw obviously was one that those two weren't exactly walking down the path holding hands together. Uh, Coach and Q Hillsman had some debates over the years, but I think there's an unspoken yet intense rivalry between Jeff and Wes. And right now, it's just sad to say, gang, but Jeff's kind of second place in this battle right now against Westmore.
It is a close second, though. I will say
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But so anyway, Clemson trying to secure their place to play on Wednesday in the ACC tournament is 1-10 in conference mark. And you just got to wonder that they lost a couple key players on that team earlier in the season. One deciding to enter the portal, and another a great transfer from Syracuse, and Kara Lewis just deciding to quit basketball altogether. She retired. She goes, "Thanks for bringing me in, Clemson. I've enjoyed my time here, but I just don't think this is for me anymore." And I give Amanda Bittler all the credit in the world. She's a great coach. The majority of the players love her to death, and she would do anything in the world for the program. But when you're Clemson, I think you finally just have to start looking at things. And 2019 Coach of the Year in the ACC, but since then, gang, it hasn't been much. So, Cards go up to Syracuse on Sunday to take on the Orange up in the Carrier Dome. Should be an interesting one for Louisville. Syracuse gave us a little bit of a struggle when we met them earlier in the season. Went in that one 84-71. The Cards did in the KFCM Center. Let's take it around the table real quick here on that one. Jared, what do you see in this one coming up Sunday?
I think we're going to be watching a lot of film from our first matchup with them to figure out how we can make adjustments on defense, so it's not as much of a shootout as the last go around where we gave up 71 points to them. I think that's going to be the biggest difference, is just trying to contain Syracuse, and they don't play a lot of players. I think they only run like 6-7 regularly on their on a daily kind of game for them. So I think that'll be part of what we need to keep an eye on, as well as how fresh our legs are after this will be our fourth game in roughly 8 days. So hopefully everybody's still in good shape. I think we've done a good job on limiting players down to about 32, 33 minutes max each game lately to try and keep those fresh legs. I'm not overly worried about our offense, the way some of our players have been shooting. I think Olivia's starting to find her rhythm. Peyton's starting to find her rhythm. Haley's obviously found her rhythm. I think Kiana's due for breakout offensive game. So offensively, I'm not too concerned. It's our defense. We need to make those adjustments from last time.
This one at noon on Valley Sports, Daryl. Can Haley remain hot up in the dome?
Yeah, I think Emily's going to take the team out to some of her favorite eateries around Syracuse first.
She's
get
not
their belly-
from Syracuse. Let's be fair. She is from the city.
But she probably has favorite spots. I mean, she spent a couple of years there.
I mean, yeah, being up there 4 years, you think there might be a place or two that that she would kind of.
It's kind of like expecting you to have a favorite spot in Paducah.
Oh wow, I didn't know it was like that.
Syracuse is pretty small.
Hey, let's go over to Birch Tavern. They got a happy hour. Oh, never mind, Coach. No, let's not go over to the Birch Tavern.
No, but I think that, like Jared said, the defense, they're going to be looking at this, the previous matchup in January, and the defense is going to turn it up a notch and not let the Cars go off the way they did against the Cards.
84 points is a pretty nice output against anybody. Jeff, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, you asked what I think you asked Jared what he sees for this. I see a lot of empty seats because it's the Carrier Dome. They never fill that place. They don't even get close. It's massive, and then I know in years past, even Walls has talked about you go up there, you're in this huge Carrier Dome that can seat 50,000, whatever it is. I don't know. And there'll be 150 people in there, and I suspect their crowds are larger than that these days, but not a lot. So this is a team that is finding a new identity after kind of a crazy off season, and you wish them well, but I'm not too worried about this one either. I think we got a good shot at a good win here, and let's use it as a confidence builder and go forward.
I think I read somewhere earlier in the season that Syracuse had 9 players that were either new or had come in from the transfer portal to join that roster. And gosh, it seems like you can look at any other ACC roster and see somebody that was previously Syracuse on that roster.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Yeah, obviously a return to her former haunts for Emily Inksler, who will go in, and I don't think she has anything to prove to the crowd because there probably won't be much of one up there. I don't think she has anything to prove to herself because she's in a much happier and a much more advantageous spot for her than she used to be. I see this one key is hopefully we can get up early, and if we can, we need to avoid slumping in the fourth quarter like we did against the Cuse last time we played them in the KFC Center. Syracuse, for being as new to each other team as they are this year, they have developed, I think, pretty well, and give a lot of credit to their new head coach who basically walked into a dumpster fire with a bucket of water and said, "So you want me to do what? Okay, let's see if I can do that." He hasn't had too bad a go of it, though, seriously. Syracuse is a team that I think on their best nights can give anybody in ACC a run for their money. The key is how will we handle it, as Jared so aptly mentioned, 4 games in 8 days. Boy, that's a tough one on anybody. I don't care who you are. We will find out. We'll see. We'll certainly have the preview for it tomorrow. But Jeff will give his indomitable report on what he sees is going to happen, and I'll recap it on Monday for you. So. But looking at the clock on the wall here, we are at the noon hour. So, boy, this seemed to have been a fast show today, too, guys. Golly, we have just zipped through stuff. But let's go ahead and get into some final thoughts here for the broadcast. I'll just start it out by talking a little bit about with the spring sports coming into fashion now. Certainly, we're going to have a lot of great softball coming up beginning in at least out at Ulmer Stadium in March, and certainly want to try to get out and catch as many of those games as I can. And let's give that a shout out to Scott Teeter, who is doing the best he can down there with the lacrosse program that basically he's had to rebuild and reformulate over the years, but he's still got the Blaylock sisters on the roster, and anytime you've got those two, they're certainly a good jumping off point. So spring sports on the way. Maybe, just maybe my favorite time of the year since we're getting into basketball playoffs and getting to see a sport that I've learned so much about over the last few years and come to love in lacrosse. So bring on the spring. I'm ready for it. What say you, Jared?
Yeah, well, first, make sure you start studying your ACC teams as we're about a month away from our ACC Pick'em, which I assume will be coming back for another year, right, Paul?
All systems go as far as I know.
All right, so get your studying in for that. But also kind of mirror what you said. I'm excited to see the spring sports pick up, see how lacrosse does as they continue rebuilding, and see how softball does, especially with such a busy opening weekend next weekend. So just ready to have the spring sports and hopefully some warm weather to come with.
And don't give any more cameras away, Jared. Okay.
Okay.
Dead air. Right. Jeff, what you got for me?
Well, two quick things. Obviously, I tend to go to softball more in the spring than lacrosse. Love both of them, but I tend to be at softball more frequently. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to get out to Omaha. I really haven't been out there hardly at all in over 2 years because of pandemic stuff going on. So it's good. I'm really looking forward to get back out there. I am looking at the schedule. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to be out of town for the first 2 home weekends. So I won't be able to get to see them as early as I would otherwise, but looking forward to do that. Also, you're talking about cameras and Jared. I know Jared, you saw this the video of the camera sliding
Oh, that
down
poor
the
camera.
yeah, sliding down the snow. Oh God, you say that camera was probably a 5-digit cost.
What are you talking about, Jeff? It was a perfect 10 performance. By the camera.
I mean,
The
great
camera's
job by the guy
currently
catching
on the
it.
downhill slalom. I mean, the camera's in third place all by himself. Yeah.
Holy smokes!
That's where what insurance comes into play for. But when you've got big time photographers at the Olympics, you're looking at camera lens combined is going to be well over $10,000.
Yeah. And it was like I was watching it going, wow, that really sucks. That really sucks. And then you start seeing black pieces fly off. You're like, oh, that's actual damage there going on. Oh, I did hear that
not going back on.
That Nikon and Canon both have on-site like people to work on those, so they can do quick turnarounds of them. So for that event, so I can't.
That's the same for some of the bigger sports for NCAA championships as well. They'll have people on site.
Yeah, that's cool. Cool. So anyway.
Given my penchant for comedy, I was just waiting for, at the very end of that clip, a snowplow to come by and
just crunch.
So they have medics for the athletes on site and medics for the equipment on site.
For the cameras, yeah.
It's crazy.
Could be another job for you, Jared. Camera repair on the spot. Okay.
Put it on your vision board, Jared, for the next Olympics.
Just put it on your resume. On the spot camera repair. No long waits. Daryl, what did you got for me today?
Well, I know you guys said you're looking forward to spring, but I'm pretty sure that groundhog saw his shadow, so we got 6 more weeks of winter to look forward to. But like you said, spring sports are going to start regardless. But my final thought is on basketball still, because it was a bit busy week for that squad, and I'm just so happy to have the security and the confidence in our coach and our team's abilities to fight back when they get down and make it fun to watch for viewers. So thanks to that squad.
And in all credit, the groundhog is only 4 for 10 in the last 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine if you're taking threes. Okay.
I didn't know there was a stat sheet on that groundhog.
There actually, I heard it on the radio the other morning. Yeah.
No better than a coin flip is what the groundhog does overall.
Yeah. But certainly don't let the groundhog drive either. Okay. If you have a vehicle.
And I just remembered one other final thought, Paul. Really sad that Jazz got waived by the Liberty. I had a lot of warm fuzzies that a player like Jazz could make it to the WNBA. I felt like she represented a really large portion of female college athletes. And she spent a couple years in New York and made a lot of fans in the process, but I'm sure she'll find some happy home somewhere else too.
Yeah, you got to think that someone would pick her up, and certainly it's an indicator that the Walt Hopkins experiment with the Liberty is officially gone, dead and over, 6 feet under, as Australian Sandy takes over the program now, and we could maybe see a little better record out of the Liberty coming up, but don't expect them to be WNBA finalists this year for sure. Which also makes you wonder: is Asia Dura next? I mean, come on, let's think about this.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned in our group chat, they did sign Stephanie Dolson, Big Mama Steph, who I love to watch play. Despite her being a Husky, I like watching her play. I think she's a lot of fun, and I think that's a good potential there. And unfortunately, that may not bode well for Kylie there, I think.
I have to wonder about Kylie as well.
Yeah.
But certainly time will tell. Certainly there is money to be made in Europe for these young women, though. And I think somebody's got to pick up Jazz. I'm going to agree with you. Somebody could use a guard. You look at some of the rosters, they've only got 4 or 5 guards on some of these WNBA rosters right now. Maybe Jazz will get lucky and go to a team that's a contender.
The guard and the energy. I think someone could use that.
Definitely. If anything else, the bench energy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody louder on the bench cheering on her teammates than Jazz Jones.
Absolutely.
Get wise out there, WNBA franchise owners. Bring Jazz to your town. And sign her to a nice contract.
Because you're also signing a whole bunch of Louisville fans.
Yeah, true.
That's right. And our cheering choices are basically diminishing now for Cardinals in the WNBA. Of course, the Angels still playing ball, although
She's up at Minnesota now.
I'm
Just saw
having
that
a hard
there.
time cheering for Minnesota game. I'll be
Yeah,
honest with you.
yeah.
I'll cheer for Angel to do well.
Maisha Hines Allen re-signed with Washington, the Mystics. So
Perhaps now, probably my favorite player in the WNBA that was an ex-Cardinal now,
Yep.
Maisha. Now that Jazz is gone, and
Yep.
of course Maisha, a force out there. But
yeah, absolutely.
other than that, we'll wait and see. Hopefully, good things will go well for the Cardinals and catching on with other teams. So let's hope the Kylie can stick with the lib. But I don't know, like you mentioned, Jeff, it's kind of
Could be tough.
downward trending, right?
Yeah, it could be tough.
All right. I want to thank everybody for joining in and listening with us. And we'll catch you back here and let you know something I don't next week, 11 a.m. for another edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. Go Cards.